Today I am with Nick Lai, one of Hong Kong's leading CEOs. He's the co-owner of Hong Kong Broadband Network, one of the region's leading broadband suppliers. He has pioneered a co-ownership model that today involves nearly 930 people that are part owner in the business with him. It's a revolutionary model that I think we should all copy. And any entrepreneurs out there that are looking to build a business with purpose could learn from Nick's insights on how this model works. Nick has also taken his company through SARS, through the financial crisis, and today through the panic of coronavirus. Hong Kong is coming out the other side. There's some lessons we can learn from Hong Kong and from Nick today on how to survive coronavirus and long-term, how to be an inspirational, pioneering entrepreneur. Nick, thanks for joining us for the Q&A, and we're going to go into some interesting debates around the philosophy you have on how you run your business. I'd like to start off, if it's possible, to ask you a little bit about the co-ownership model that you've built up, how it began and how it actually works.
So co-ownership is about not just working for the company, but owning the company that you work for. And co-ownership cannot be given. It cannot be, Simon, he's a part of the company, here's some stock options, you're now a co-owner. A co-owner means actually writing the company a check or buying stock from the open market and putting in a trust for a long-term hold. And it's by opt-in. We invite people to join, but you have to say yes to it. You can show people the path, they have to decide to walk down it. And then the co-ownership program is one where you get a supercharged return if we hit certain KPIs, key performance indicators. And then the beautiful thing about our arrangement in our company is we have about 930 co-owners out of 6,000 colleagues. Each co-owner, our business card actually says co-owner. And if you look on our website, you see 900 names in the co-owner registry. It's a sense of pride.
So 900 people have bought into the business.
Yeah, it's about 1 in 5. 900 divided by 6,000.
And just for people that might want to adopt this strategy and learn about it, so how does it work? You buy shares in the business and then you get an equity certificate, and then you get to participate in boardroom types discussions as a one entity who own all the shares. How does those 900 people, is it one entity or is it 900 individuals?
900 individuals own like normal shares in the company,
right?
But we get a kicker if we hit certain stretched performance targets over 3 years. Then the company issues additional shares to us for free.
Okay. If
we don't hit the KPI, then you don't have any additional kicker.
Go ahead, Nick, please.
The key difference between this and a stock option plan is that we have real stock and we paid for it. That means we feel the pain. The problem with the corporate world, in our view, especially the American kind of greed is good corporate world, is that you have a lot of upside, but you don't have any of the downside. Here, we feel the pain. And pain is an essential element of doing the right thing. Now think about our kids, think about ourselves when we were young. We learned not to play with fire. It's probably because we've been burnt or scalded with hot water. Once you've done that, you stop playing with fire. But if you never felt the pain, you would be burning yourself all the time. Totally. This is what many corporate managers do. They're burning their shareholders' money because they don't feel the pain.
That's a fascinating way of looking at it. I guess as someone that's owned equity in many businesses, and including, of course, my own, there is an element of me that I have. Basically, you feel the pain. You lose money. You make money. But does that happen for your 900 co-owners? Maybe you've never lost money, but if you lose money, if people try to adopt this system, would that then translate into people who have to put their hand in their pocket, just as I would as an owner in a business? If the business isn't doing well, I've had to put money in. How does that mechanism work?
Well, you don't put money in. You can if the company calls for additional cash. Everybody will get a cash call, you get diluted. But that's That's part of it. The key point is you feel both the upside and the downside. Now, thinking about you as an entrepreneur, as an owner of your company, you work your ass off, right? Nobody has to tell you how to work because you feel that sense of pride and there's your name behind the company. That's what we have with 930 people in our company.
Amazing.
What we want people to do is when you walk on HKBN, Hong Kong Broadband Network, manhole cover on the streets, you will want to stand on top of it with your family and take a selfie because you're proud that that is that's a fiber manhole cover. And you own a part of that.
What other businesses doing this?
There are other companies that are starting, a couple of other companies that are starting to do this. But not a lot, because it takes a lot of conviction. You can't force someone to buy in. You can't put a gun to someone's head and say you have to write the company a check. It's an opt-in process.
Is it similar to like if I go out and I buy Apple stock, I then feel like one more reason to buy Apple products? Is it a similar thing?
Yes, but times 100.
Right. Because
you work in a company and you can shape the company.
Yeah.
And you're proud of the company. And you take responsibility for the company.
And how did this happen? How did this manifest itself 929 partners ago?
Okay, the history is we did a management buyout about 7 years ago where the original founder, I'm actually not the founder, I'm a co-owner. The original founder of the company sold the company. And we're the professional management team funded by a professional investor. So when they bought the company with us, they gave us a supercharged deal, like American style capitalism, greed is good. And they gave us 7 times return to the top 10 people. So the idea was that you will, decimate the company, put on a lot of debt and cut costs and make a super amount of money. But we said that's the wrong kind of mindset. We said instead of 10 people having 7 times ratio, 7 times better return than the investor, we wanted 100 people having, say, 1.5 times return. Spread out the ownership. And that's exactly what we did. So we opened up the co-ownership plan for the top 100. And we end up with 80 co-owners. Not everybody will say yes, because not everybody has the money or the conviction to put money in. But 80% put money in. And that's how we made the first 80 Hong Kong dollar millionaires. Once we improved the company and IPO'd it, at IPO, we created more Hong Kong dollar millionaires than any other telecom company in the history of Hong Kong.
Wow. I want to interview every single one of these people. I think it would be a fascinating documentary. And I'd love to do that at some point. Maybe.
I can send you a booklet with the quotes, actually.
Yeah, I would love that. And I'll share it with the audience later as well. I think people will be inspired by this idea. Yeah. Well, it's linked for me, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about education. And those 930 people, I'm sure they're all from very different backgrounds or very different educations. But I have had experience in my past with people that have had amazing education. Sometimes they get trapped by that education. So they might be trained to be a lawyer, for example, but not like being a lawyer, but somehow because they've spent 5 years learning it and they've got debt behind it, they are a lawyer today and they get trapped by their education. I also worry that education today as a system is a little bit broken, the memorization system. I'm interested in your view. I know it's different from mine and I'd love to debate it a little bit with you, but what's your view on the education system today and this whole point I'm making around how education can trap you? How do you feel about education?
Well, I think we're actually we have a lot more in common than disagreement. But the starting point is, how do you define education? Now, if you define education as Ivy League type, or Oxbridge type of education, I agree, not everybody needs it. But if you define education as continuous lifetime learning and non-stop reading and so forth, and it doesn't have to be reading. You could be learning in different ways because not everyone's a reader, right? But I think that definition of education is an absolute must. We joke about it in our company because sometimes my colleagues ask me, why do you keep changing your mind? Well, I say, well, in a fairly arrogant way, in a humbly arrogant way, I'm smarter today than yesterday. And I'll be smarter tomorrow than today. So, every piece of new information that comes in makes us smarter. And you make a different set of decisions with different sets of information. I mean, this is an excellent book. The points that you made out, if you read this one, it's called Excellent Sheep.
Excellent
It's
Sheep.
exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
About how education has been too modularized.
If you're a young person out there today and you're deciding, for example, whether or not to go to university, do you have any advice?
And the advice would be depends on the person. I think some people thrive in the university environment and others don't. So I wouldn't say university is right for everyone. And I wouldn't say non-university education is right for everyone as well. I mean, that's the two extremes. I think it depends on the person. And then it depends on what you do. Like, after learning to read, what kind of books do you read? Is that what kind of books you read that is more important? Right? If you learn to read and don't read, let's not say reading is not worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So
totally agree.
Once you have the skill set, it's what you do with the skill set. And once you have the education, whether it's Ivy League education or on the street education, it's what you do with it.
You're right. We were more aligned than not. My thing. I've done a few videos on this, as you know, because you kindly commented and shared. But I think basically what I'm saying is definitely go to school and learn to read and write. Definitely go to school and enjoy the social side. I think there's some real benefits. Hopefully that won't come to an end with coronavirus. Hopefully people still be able to socialize at school. But the thing is, the thing I see a lot in England, this is a really big problem, is almost like you've got no choice but to go to university even if you don't want to, because every single job application is asking for a degree now. And it's almost a system is so well set up that you can get into debt to go and do it. So you get 21-year-olds with £50,000 worth of debt to their name and an education that I think they could have got if they'd gone and worked for you. And probably not only could they have gone and worked for you, if they'd written you a £50,000 check, they'd be owners in a incredibly successful business today. So, to me, the education model could simply be your business model today is a replacement. Don't put that money into university. You can go socialize with people. You can learn all those skills. You can have a good time. You can learn on the job and get paid and invest in something that could grow in and make you money at the other end, not leave you with debt.
I mean, once again, I think, yes, that does apply to some people. I share with you my own personal experiences. I had a very average undergraduate degree from the University of Western Australia. And I always felt a chip on my shoulder talking to people who come from Ivy League. So when I was about 38 specifically, I actually went back to school and did my EMBA with the Kellogg Hong Kong UST school, which is a world-class school. And it cost £100,000. But it was the best investment in my life. It really opened up my eyes to world-class companies that I would never have heard of, given my upbringing in Australia. But it's a function of what you do with that education. A lot of what we are running with the company today was inspired by that education. That education, or you can call it exposure, but it's also what you do with that exposure. Some of my colleagues that went on the same course didn't have the same kind of impact. So to me, that was the best £100,000 investment, or one of the best in my career or my life. Certainly better than buying a home or anything equivalent.
I think investing in yourself is always the best investment you can ever make. People always ask me, what should I invest in? What company? What stocks? And I always say, make sure you've invested in yourself first. So, we're aligned again there. But for people out there that want to have this kind of breakthrough, let's call it, or educational insight, but don't have £100,000 to go and do that, is there any other way to get it?
There's plenty other ways. I mean, some of the things that I personally do, I try to read about 15 books a year. I make an effort. Some are a waste of time, to be frank, but some are incredibly insightful. Some are incredibly insightful years from now. When I'm 20 years old, like mid 20 years old, and you're reading about how to run a 1,000-person company, you kind of don't really relate to it. But 15 years later, we're running a 6,000 people company, and I'm so glad I read about it 15 years ago.
Maybe later, I know how busy you are, but if you can send me the top 15 books that you think people need to read, I'll post it up online for people, and they can perhaps, get your £100,000 education for free by reading those 15 books. I love that idea that we can give that insight to people. That's the other thing about education. Sometimes I find that people have gone and got this amazing insight. They've got this amazing knowledge. You've gone and applied it into a business that's helped a lot of people, but a lot of people just keep it for themselves. And just imagine if you could share that knowledge. I agree with you. To me, that's not education. That's on-the-job training. It's just the same. It's just, you can go work with. I always say to people, go work for the most brilliant person you can think of, and go work for them for free for 3 months. Don't give them £50,000. You offer that to help them for free for 3 months. You'll learn so much in those 3 months that education probably never teach you. So to me,
actually, I did exactly that. I left investment banking. And I took this job because the founder of the original founder of the company, who we subsequently bought the company from, was a visionary. He was like the Richard Branson of Hong Kong. I took an 80% pay cut to join him for the reasons you said. The reality is I would have gone and worked for him for free. I think I lucked out in get paid 20%.
Totally. That's another gem right there. I wish more people would listen to that. And I've interviewed quite a lot of people around success, and when you look at it, it's always one individual that's made a huge difference in their lives and taken them in this one direction that's made them successful. And so having that influence of that one person, that's worth 80% salary for a year, every single day of the week, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think right now, just thinking about the coronavirus nightmare that everyone's facing, there is also an opportunity to think about, okay, what can I do and who can I work with that can change my life? I don't necessarily have to be stuck in the old way, because the world's about to change. Everything's going online. Everything's about to change. So there's an opportunity for people to rethink how they approach the world, right?
Indeed. Like one of the things I'm doing, I share with you, I'm just rolling this out, is I'm working from home. So there is more downtime. People don't come by and speak to you and so forth, right? So I'm taking the top 50 people in my company, and I'm scheduling a 15-minute call with them on a Zoom call, or in our case, team call, and just chat.
That's a really good idea.
And I specifically said to them, or will say to them, this is not to scrub your budget. This is not to kind of get a budget update on your performance. So this is just to have a chat.
They're going to be scared. They're going to be scared at first until that first chat happens. But if the boss says, I want a 15-minute chat, I'd be nervous. But I love it. I think it's a great idea. And like you say, with this downtime, I think a lot of CEOs and bosses of companies sitting at home right now, they got a chance to, like you say, schedule in some time to connect. You're saying 50 people. I think that's a lot of people, but I think it's a great idea. When's your book coming out?
No.
You should definitely write one. I'd buy it. I help you write it. I help you publish it. I'd love it. I think you've got some amazing insights, really. Just closing off, I mean, I've been obsessed with this concept of luck. I think I told you I tried to write, I have written a book myself. And as I started writing it, I started out like everyone does, talking about all these brilliant things that I did and how I made the right decisions and took risk and all these things. And then I realized this magic factor that I wanted to explain that happened to me quite a few times. If it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be successful today. Even if I worked hard, even if I was in the right place at the right time, still I could not necessarily be successful. Luck was the key, basically. So what do you think about luck?
I think it's the return on luck that makes the difference. I think most people have a similar amount of luck, good and bad. Some people return good luck and scale it. So what we always tell our people is, let's say you have a 50-50 chance of success. Just make sure you double up on when you win. So you make lots of little attempts, and sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't you get unlucky. Make sure that when you get unlucky, you can afford the downside. And when you luck out, you triple it, you scale it, you Model T it.
Love it.
So that's what we mean about calculated risk taking. And you use calculated risk taking to create luck.
I love that. In a business context, it makes total sense. But what about when people are born into poverty locations or into deprived family lifestyles where they can't, for example, get an education, they can't afford to get an education? I mean, that's not their fault, right? They can't manage the downside, and they can't triple on the upside. So luck to me is still a very interesting subject, because it's not one thing, is it?
No, you're right. I mean, when I say that, I'm more like relative to the next person that's born into the same situation.
Yes.
I'm looking at, I think we have a similar amount of luck relative to someone in that
same environment.
Same situation. Right? If you have two rich people born into wealth, who's going to get a better return on life? I'm not talking about making more money. I'm talking about a better return on life.
It's interesting.
You get two underprivileged students.
No, that's true. I was just thinking about, there was a story about, I think it was in one of the big banks, I want to say Goldman Sachs, where they interviewed one of the top performing financial managers there, who said he was very unhappy and overworked and not enjoying life. But he was making $1 million US a year, I think, at least, plus. And then in the same interview, they interviewed the janitor of the building, the guy that basically cleaned the toilets, and he said how happy he was and how much he enjoyed his job and how proud he was of what he did every day and how lucky he was. He used the word luck in the interview. So it kind of, the stark contrast between the two worlds and your perspective sometimes as well, right?
Yeah, it is. It's certainly perspective.
Well, Nick, thank you for giving up so much of your time. Appreciate it. It's amazing insights. I hope everybody in the world in business today listens to this. I hope every single CEO follows your example and gives back. And I want to say thank you again from myself, the audience, and Connor, who my cameraman today has been nodding nonstop through the whole process. Thank you so much, Nick, for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you, Simon. Cheers.